Submission. A well-governed state is like a woman. Just as a woman, through cheerful and able service, wins control of a man, so a great state, by its peaceful generosity to smaller countries, wins their allegiance. And so a small state, by yielding to a great state, wins influence over it. Some submit to a conqueror, others conquer by submitting. Great states have no higher purpose than to form a federation and feed the people. Small states have no higher purpose than to enter a federation and serve the people. They have different ends, but to achieve them, both must practice submission. This is chapter 61 of the Tao Te Ching, and I believe this is less a comment on gender than it initially seems, especially given the context of 2023. Remember chapter 28, there's the balance of masculine and feminine, as well as the changing nature of those words, not just on the grand scale between generations, of course, between the time that Tao Te Ching was written, the time that capitalism came into existence, to now, but also this changes regularly in our lives. We also live in a reality where people choose to persuade. That's an important part of interacting with other people, especially in politics and government, a place where debate is the way that things are best figured out. Without the responsibility of self-ownership, I understand how easy it could be to blur the lines on individual rights. People can only meet you as deeply as they've met themselves. Apparently that's a famous YouTuber who said that, a professional empath, which is fascinating. I didn't know that existed. I would be incapable, I think it's right. I would be incapable of knowing how unknowable another person is. And it's interesting to be able to love on that level, or learning to love on that level, feels like something of great value. And federal politics, I think at that point, becomes something not just distant, but burdensome unnecessarily. It's an interesting thought experiment to say, imagine that Jefferson had only stayed in Virginia because there wasn't a violation of consent that occurred. If he had been living, for example, in a more capitalist society, it would have been completely unreasonable for a king to steal from people. In that case, Jefferson, through cheerful and able service, would have been able to interact with someone who held the position of a king and generally build good relationships. I think that one of the things that is often misunderstood about capitalism is its only exclusively rugged individualism, which is true in probably the cases of many people who invest in it currently. But I think that's a missed opportunity for everyone to realize the best parts of their lives in their own way. At the very least, it's a really important way for a government to act. Interaction on the international level, if we're going to have societies, should respect the consent of every single person along the way. We wouldn't have armed conflict. We wouldn't have violent interaction. We wouldn't have many of these different things. Is it idealistic? Absolutely. We don't live in a perfect reality. We have finite resources. There are so many different reasons that our world will never be perfect. However, holding our governments accountable to the standard of respecting human rights, individual rights, and all humans are individuals, it actually frees up bandwidth for the really important things to happen, for governance to actually do the job that it is failing to do right now. It's interesting to see these chapters build on each other too, because how is this done? According to just right before, to do this fearlessly, we do it simply, boldly, without fear. We do it freely and fearlessly, and virtue will abound.